Hello, and welcome to the Quoted Interview Series, where we get to the bottom of what's top of mind with rock stars in the media landscape, especially journalists, editors, and people who are making the media machine go. I'm your host, Lou Carlozo, coming to you from the beautiful Quoted Quonset Hut in Chicago. And on today's show, speaking of rock stars, we've got a bona fide rock star here with Philadelphia roots, just as I have. Danya Henninger. Danya is a Philadelphia-based journalist who believes local news is essential for thriving communities and that its format will continue to evolve. She's right on the cutting edge of that, by the way, and we'll get into it in a second. Since December 2023, Danya has served as editorial director at Technically, where she leads a multi-local newsroom covering entrepreneurship, AI, civic tech, and jobs of the future in cities and regions across the U.S. As a consultant for OK Human, she's helping build the human stamp for writing. This is exciting, by the way. Danya led editorial and revenue at WHYY's Philly news startup. Billy Penn was a beer and food writer at the Philadelphia Inquirer, where I, by the way, was the junior mystery muncher. So we have something in common there. And she co-founded Imagic Digital. Is that a magic or imagic? It's an interesting word.
iMagic, we say. Yep.
iMagic. There we go. She co-founded iMagic Digital with her husband, a pioneering digital first video firm that was in 1997. And Danya, welcome to the Quoted Interview Series.
Thanks so much for having me, Lou. Yeah, back in 1997, digital cameras were brand new. So that
Oh,
was a
yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I find fascinating is that you were on the forefront of the technology then in many ways, not just one, you're on the forefront of the technology now. Tell us a little bit about what you do as the editorial director at Technically and what the publication is all about.
yeah, basically Technically is the nation's largest and longest running storyteller about tech and startup ecosystems at the local level. So we have reporters in 6 locations, or actually I'm hiring. We just announced recently that we're expanding to a new state, Louisiana. So hiring there, but we have reporters who focus on what is going on in the innovation economy, as it's called, like tech jobs and startups and entrepreneurialism and workforce development, and AI policy and how it's all being regulated at the local level, whether that's, city, region, state, because a lot of that gets missed. It gets missed by the standard community news orgs because they focus on, rightfully focus on things like schools and politics. And it gets missed by the people who cover big tech because they focus on like Silicon Valley and maybe New York and Boston. So there's a missing link there, and we are the storytellers who tell those stories.
What is it they say in tech? You are taking action on a pain point.
That's right. I mean, it's true. Startups, people hear about them when they hit it big, or they're going public, or they get acquired and there's an exit for the founders. But the key behind them is they're trying to solve a problem. It's a problem that hasn't found a solution. Maybe it's a new problem that didn't exist before. Maybe it's an old problem that's existed for decades and there's new technology to solve it. But that's the idea. Like, if you're not solving a problem, your business is not going to grow.
Absolutely. And it really behooves us in the media to pay attention to these things on the local and the state level. A lot of news stories get lost. It would be almost the same thing as the Philadelphia Inquirer not covering night news meetings, which I used to do a lot of. You'd find out what would happen in the local communities and how it was going to affect everything from tax rates to local governance. Sometimes it was what seemed like a very minute detail, like how the trash was going to get collected, but that means everything to everyone. You just ask people in Chicago, the catchphrase here is, I don't care who's in office, I just want to know my trash is being collected.
Yeah. Yeah. And really also, I feel undercovered a little bit because these are the ways that regions grow. So these are the levers for equitable regional growth. Like, all studies have shown that all net new jobs in a region, like if you want there to be more jobs in the Chicago area, for example, it's because of new companies. So it's not because of us existing companies growing and they grow and they shrink. New companies mean new jobs in a region. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's why that's the theory behind why we cover it.
Yeah, we're gunning to be a quantum computing capital of the US. And tonight, in fact, I'm going to an event where they're gathering a bunch of leaders in the quantum build out world in Chicago, and just fascinated to see what the conversations are going to be, where things are moving. I'm already diving into quantum computing. I have a long, long way to go on the learning curve, but in 10 years, it's going to change everything, and can't imagine what it will do on the local level. So we're really, really fortunate to have you leading the charge there with your team.
Yeah, I visited Chicago recently, this fall and did a tour of some of the innovation, heard all about the quantum campus, the huge quantum campus being constructed there. Very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, speaking of technology and the media, OK Human, which is a pretty new concern. It's out of San Francisco, right? Small company so far. You started in May. Give us the rundown on what OK Human is, what it does, how it's going to work.
Yeah. OK Human is a tool to prove what you wrote or edited at its simplest. We're in a new era here where it's the first time in human history where having a thought and writing out that thought in a way that's easily communicated, there's no friction there anymore. Anyone can do it with AI tools. And so that puts us in a new era of like actually needing to, in many cases, needing and wanting to know, okay, well, fine, use the AI tools because they're helpful and they're getting better every day. I mean, every month. But what we need to be able to a way to track, like, what did humans contribute? Like, what did you write? What did you edit a lot? What just came from the AI tools? There are various circumstances where that's not only a nice to know, but a key thing to know. News and working with freelancers is one of them. Agencies that like copywriting and marketing and ghostwriting is another one. People want to know what they're paying for there. Academia is another one. Teachers are suffering, professors are suffering, especially at the college level of like, do we surveil our students? How do we actually make sure they're learning stuff? Because writing is a big part of learning. So we're pretty excited about this technology.
Yeah. I taught at the graduate and undergraduate level in Chicago. And one of the things that I've heard they're doing, which I think is a fabulous idea, is they're returning to blue books. You take
Yeah.
a final exam, it's like, okay, leave the computer off to the side, take out a pen, here's a blue book, get going. The question is whether that's practical and applicable in the media world, especially on a deadline basis. We know it's not. When OK Human is in action, what do you envision it doing in a real world scenario, whether it's a newsroom scenario or writer dealing with editor, vice versa? How might it be applied?
Sure. So it's software that runs on the on your laptop at the operating system level, and you can enable it in any app. And basically, without storing or reading your content, it basically just tracks the forensics of your typing, and so it shows where you've put effort or input. I see it one of the best use cases in a newsroom. I've been in several news leadership positions of being like maybe working with freelancers or outside contributors. You've seen there's been stories in the news where like Wired and Business Insider had to take down articles because it turns out there wasn't a real journalist behind it. They were just chat GPT generated. So this, if you are a newsroom and you set your policy and you say, okay, freelancer, you have to use OK Human, give me something stamped with OK Human when you submit your draft. Then I can see, fine, if you want to use Grammarly or ChatGPT to do some parts of it, fine. But I don't want to just take a ChatGPT generated thing and publish it. And otherwise, there's no way to know. There's just no way to know. So that's one use case from somebody outside the newsroom. I
Mm-hmm.
also think inside a newsroom, newsrooms are now developing AI policies of like when it's appropriate. The Philadelphia Inquirer now allows their reporters to use generative AI. They have an internal system that only is based on their archive for explainers, but they're not supposed to use it for other types of stories. And so how can an editor know? And you don't want to be you don't want to accuse people of you don't want to have false positives. Oh, you used ChatGPT and then they didn't. But also you just want to be sure and you want to be fair. It's a way to be equitable because it's full transparency. It's basically trust infrastructure
Hmm.
for written content. So that's another example within the newsroom where it could be used.
Yeah, it sounds like a watermarking device that works in the positive. It inspires confidence in the editor. It builds trust between editors and writers. It removes the need to be on the defensive for the writer to prove what they're doing. The technology is assisting with that. And as long as the technology works great, it sounds to me like everybody wins.
I love how you put it there. It's really envisioned as a tool to empower writers, right? So that if you're proud of your work, you can show a portfolio if you're trying to get a new work, for example. This is all my stamped work. You can tell it was me. These are how many hours I put into it. It's not a gamified thing. There's no score attached, like with the AI detectors, which A, don't work, but B, there's like this score and there's this feeling of like, can I beat it? I'll go change a few words and now it'll tell me it's human written. There's no score attached. There's just like it shows you what parts or how much time spent or just like a certification of that. It's another thing is like it shows you that it's copyrightable because fully AI generated content isn't actually copyrightable.
Yeah, which is incredible because we know that, but a lot of writers may not know that. And if they're generating things fully in AI and somebody can say, hey, it's okay. It wasn't against the rules, but this is AI generated. You don't own the copyright. That creates a hornet's nest worth of issues, especially if the writer in question is doing a book, let's say, right? Books have to be copyrighted. If AI is generating the book, and I can only imagine if it hasn't been done already, it's about to happen. Where's the copyright?
Yeah. It's happening. I mean, it's happening. Which brings me to another thing is like we are when we have it's in pre-release right now, it's early access, so people can sign up, but we have to approve them on the back end. But when we launch, people can use it for whatever. I actually envision people using it for like social media comments. Have you seen those threads on Reddit where it's like whatever the initial thing was, it devolves into a conversation about like, oh, you used AI for that. No, your reply was all ChatGPT. Like this is going to be a way. I'm already using it on LinkedIn. I wrote this. This was not ChatGPT.
Fabulous. And we need to know that because the era of deep fakes is only going to present more challenges. I'm not going to say it's going to get worse. It's just that, as with any technology, as it becomes more available to everybody, there are risks involved. But as I was explaining to someone this morning, they were asking me about AI and what I thought about it in the media. I said, look, no one ever builds the guardrails first and then the road. You build the road, then you have to put guardrails on it and you have to figure out how the road best works and to keep people from just swerving onto it, not ramping in properly or hitting the brakes. And those seem to be the issues we're working out now are the guardrail issues, the safety issues, the veracity issues. And so can totally see how okay human fits into the fabric of all of this. Stepping outside of that, just a little bit outside of it, you are a media veteran. And I'm going to say this beer and food columnist at the Philadelphia Inquirer. When I was at the Inky, I would have killed to be the beer and food columnist, the pizza columnist. I would have even settled for that. So, wow, what a varied resume that you've gotten a little bit of a Philly shared history. When we think about AI, there are all these uncertainties, and I hear a lot of fear around it. I fall into an odd camp for some journalists in that I see it as a tool and I see it as an incredible tool while also seeing the dangers of it. In your own words, in your own view, where do you see AI coming into play in the media right now? What are we doing well? What could we be doing better?
Yeah. What is going well, and I hope will be something that is used where AI is used more is for accessibility. It can increase accessibility, like access to information. Everything from enabling translations. they're not perfect right now. And so but if you would have a translation be available or not, I mean, that's been available for a while. It's just Google Translate on the web. But, enabling translations, enabling, we can take now, AI can do great transcription. So these civic meetings that in not a city, but like in a news desert where they don't have a reporter to send to the civic meetings. Now there are companies that are using AI to generate like kind of meeting notes. Take the YouTube video from that civic association meeting, the zoning meeting, the council meeting, and generate a summary. And then this is other people can publish it, they can put it on social media. This is what you need to know. We didn't have a journalist there, but because of the AI tools, you now have information that you didn't have otherwise. That's where people are doing great things with it. Explainers, we are actually using it at technically to when we write, some of the stories are about technical stuff that like startups that are doing very complicated stuff, like quantum, for example. We will often now insert an FAQ into the story that is assisted, like we'll kind of put it into ChatGPT and said, help me write this FAQ. And then we'll go and edit it and fact check it ourselves. But we didn't have time. We don't have time. I have one reporter in each region that I have, that we do reporting in. I don't have a lot of time. They're unable to cover more, give more thorough explanations because of AI. So those are on the positive side, of like how generative AI it can be used, I think, in
Right.
newsrooms. Yeah, there's definitely the downsides, the slop, like hallucinated quotes. If you just ask ChatGPT to, like, even if you give it a transcript, I did this interview, write an article for me, it'll make up a lot of the quotes,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
publish that, and you can get in trouble
Yeah.
for that.
There is a very prominent case, and I'm going to say I actually know personally the writer that this happened to. It made international headlines, where one of the newspapers here was publishing a recommended summer reading list. And the writer was in got a shovel coal fast mode. And the list ran in the publication three or four of the books. And of course, the descriptions, they didn't exist. The Chat GPT or whichever LLM the writer was using made them out of thin air. And somebody found out about it. The poor writer really, I can say, didn't mean harm, wasn't trying to cheat, was just trying to keep up with an impossible string of deadlines. It was devastating. And the writer has had to lay low and really kind of reconsider what the approach will be, what the mea culpa should be. But absolutely, anybody who's using these technologies without back checking them or having what I would call the sound professional judgment to look at the piece and say, you know what, something's not right here. I need to dig deeper into this. There are some real hazards there.
I mean, then that example is exactly happened right kind of after I joined OK Human, and I was like, this is a perfect example because it's the buck stops to me with the editor. I mean, I know this was a syndicated thing and it didn't go through all the editorial processes, but the buck stops with the editor. And if the editor had known, if okay, this part was generated, we need some extra fact checking here, right? Like okay, I see that this part he did a lot of writing, the right reporter did a lot of writing, but this part was just straight out doesn't show any human involvement. Let's fact check it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another way I can. That's exactly use case where I see we need some guardrails, like you said.
That's fantastic. Now, one question, pardon me if it's a little personal, right? But when people take on positions, they take on responsibilities, especially in the media, I think it happens to be in many cases about much, much more than the money or the title. Coming on to OK Human in May, what was it that appealed to you that you found exciting in terms of saying, yeah, I've got to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, it was definitely not the money because it's just a side like my consultant. I'm doing it as a like kind of a side gig where I don't
Right.
have the time for it, right? But I believe that we shouldn't be afraid to what I saw was this divide happening, especially in journalism, but in the world in general, where there's like the AI like enthusiasts, we gotta of course use it for anything, it's gonna save us. It's eventually gonna be like we're gonna solve all the problems. to the AI, like, you never use it. It's the plagiarism machine, don't touch it. I want there to be a way for us to use the good parts, but not have, we have to be careful of the dangers
Yes.
of hallucinations. And so I saw this tool as a way to like have transparency in it. It was really after a colleague of mine who works for, not a colleague, a friend I know who works in media also, who uses AI tools, just like was going through the AI detectors and like, they're baloney. Like even the newer ones, like literally you could change like one sentence and the whole score will be different. And for us to be like resting on those, trusting those, like those are like, GPT-0, there's like lots of investors because there is no alternative. And when I heard about this, I was like, ooh, this sounds like an alternative. So I got
Absolutely.
very excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that note, as we ride off into the sunset, if you will, I'd love to play the elevator game, right? You are an experienced media pro. You have that sound professional judgment, Danya. And we're in an elevator and somebody recognizes you and they are a journalist, an up and coming journalist. And they say, do you mind if I ask you a question? Just this whole AI thing keeps me up at night. I don't know how I should use it, whether I should use it. Is it cheating? Is it helpful? And they ask you for one sound bit of advice before the elevator hits one and everybody's got to scramble. What might that be?
Use AI tools, but interrogate them, right? Never just take an answer at face value. Whether you think it's right or wrong, we'll interrogate it. Use AI tools as a stepping stone, as a sparring partner, as a way to come up with something more, but always challenge it, interrogate it. Don't just take what it gives you. Ask more, ask for more.
That is fantastic and a good observation for me to take to heart. Danya, thank you so much for being part of the quoted interview series.
Thank you so much for having me, Lou.
Danya Henninger, a Philadelphia-based journalist, is the editorial director at Technically and a consultant for OK Human. Be sure to look for Danya on LinkedIn. And to everyone watching, thanks for tuning into the Quoted interview series. Our producer in Chicago is Ken Montone. A special thanks to the co-founders of Quoted, our own Dan Simon and Matt Neller. Thanks as well to Kelly Jura and Ashlyn Anderson. Our staff engineer is Jet and Jaycott. Our Columbia College Chicago intern is Jacob Areza. Don't forget that Quoted is the world's #1 platform for bringing journalists, PR, and subject matter experts together, not just in service of the story, but also in the spirit of building community and connections. I'm Lou Carlozo, your host. Remember to check out my financial services podcast, Bankadelic, which you can hear via Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. Until next time, stay true, stay tuned, and stay suddenly connected.